Okay.
But I did read it in the paper.
Yeah, well, .1230 WBVP, 1460 WNBA, 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM. It's Rapping with the Reps today. Welcome to the program. It's Rapping with the Rep today, singular. Josh Kaler's not able to make it, but Jim Marshall is here. You can listen to this. Obviously, you are listening to this. Otherwise, what am I doing? If you'd like to watch this, go to our Facebook page. Search Beaver County Radio on Facebook. This is being live streamed. If you have any questions for your rep or a friend of the rep, if you're a Kale guy or a Matsy guy, Jim Marshall is here for you. You can post your questions on the comments section in the Facebook feed. You can call with your questions, 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888. Mr. Marshall, how are you, sir? Good to see you.
Great. Good to see you too, Eddie.
All right. I was driving in this morning and I was thinking, what do I start with Jim? And then I heard the news. I heard Curtis doing the news and I said, well, there you go. There's been a train derailment in Newcastle. We're just starting to find out information about it. You've dealt with this because your district is right on the line with East Palestine,
right?
And I'm guessing you're still dealing with things from this every day.
Yes, it's faded somewhat, but
all right.
We still hear from folks.
What advice would you give to the people in Lawrence County after 3 months of dealing with train derailment, Norfolk Southern stuff?
Again, it's just to be patient and to get the facts before you react. Derailments happen pretty frequently. I think we talked about that.
We have. They happen every day.
Every day.
Every
somewhere.
day. Yeah.
And the one in Newcastle overnight, I think there were 9 cars.
That's what they're saying.
No fire.
Not yet.
Right. It seems like several of the cars are empty. And we'll see. I mean, today we'll get more information on the how and why. And by the looks of it, the cleanup's going to be a lot less.
Well,
I haven't heard about the train speed or any factors of that yet, but just there's no need for evacuation in Newcastle. And let's just wait and see what comes about.
You said it's slowed down a little bit, your dealings with it. How much of the last 3 months, just a ballpark percentage, how much of the last 3 months have you spent dealing with something train derailment related?
I would say it's still every day, but the first 40 days were pretty intense.
Yeah.
As the Governor Shapiro became involved and brought his administration into Darlington, that certainly helped. People would go to Darlington Township to get answers. They had people from Department of Health and Department of Agriculture and DEP on site to answer questions. Some of the people were concerned about reimbursements for losses, and the reimbursement center has been in New Waterford, Ohio, not too far away, but they are moving that center right into East Palestine now. So
why was it in New Waterford? I mean,
it was just
is that where it was?
It was a church. It was just a
They
location.
had a space.
They had a space.
Okay.
And now they have another space. And, you know, we've still heard from a few people, like, why not have it in Pennsylvania? But there were 100 times more people affected in Ohio.
Well, how big? East Palestine, about 5,000 people?
Well, in the general area, I would say that's probably a correct number.
Okay.
But,
I mean, it's close. Well, how many of those people in your district and in PA?
There were 20 households in Darlington.
Okay.
And I believe that was the entirety in PA.
And
But,
have
you know-
you met every single person in every household in Darlington by this point?
I would say every household didn't have questions. There were people
Really?
outside of that realm that had questions. But we've had a few. I've been on site to a few places, a couple businesses on Taggart Road, and been really working closely with the governor's team and with the Beaver Lawrence Farm Bureau. They've been doing an outstanding job getting on site to the farms out there to get soil samples, water samples, and they continue to do that.
Is that the biggest concern at this point? Because it's growing season and you've got a lot of agriculture coming out of there, whether it's produce or plants or meat or eggs or whatever.
That's still the top topic right now. Initially, I think it was health concerns and
Right.
then environmental concerns. So while some folks did mention home values, and they said if we wanted to move now, we couldn't sell our house, but that's still undetermined. But as far as really the market is going to drive whether or not people are going to buy produce grown there or meat from there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that's driven by perception. So it's going to be hard to predict. I know that there still are farmers markets in Beaver and Chippewa that have produce from that Darlington area. So the soil samples indicate that everything's fine, and I presume that the information was in Farm and Dairy is accurate, and the belief is that the growing season won't be impacted.
You talk about perception. Do the average people walking around believe that the soil samples are fine? You see the soil samples and you know what they are because of what your job is. But by the time the third or fourth person hears it, and you know this, the information can change. What's the perception for the people?
It's, again, Eddie, that's so hard to predict. I mean, there are some people, especially I've talked to 3 or 4 farmers that raise beef, and
Right.
a couple of them said that their requests have dropped. But others have said that they're continuing on with, still have customers and don't have concerns. So it's so hard to predict what perception is going to drive.
As a state legislator, what should the role of the state be as it pertains to rail safety?
Well, that's a great question, because for the most part, the federal
There is no
government-
role.
Right, there is
Yeah.
no role for the most part. And really, a lot of the questions that came to me and to other state reps, our role is legislative. I mean, we introduce legislation.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the administration. As far as the needs of residents in Darlington, a lot of those are fulfilled by the governor's office, not by the General Assembly.
Okay.
And we're there to listen. We're there to help. We're there to help make connections to make sure that the township has a connection with Norfolk Southern, or the township has the ear of the governor. We're there to help that. But I mean, it's the governor's role. And as far as rail safety, well, I will say at least we'll say 90% of that would be driven by the federal government. Mm-hmm. Rob Matsey and I chair the Consumer Protection, Utilities, and Technology Committee. We believe that the PUC has a role in rail safety. So Rob and I introduced rail safety legislation and passed it out of committee with bipartisan support. Much in the same Senator Casey's legislation passed out of committee, and his safety bill will now be going to the full Senate. So Rob's bill and my bill will be going to the House, and we expect that there'll be some amendments introduced. But
How much of an uphill battle is that going to be? Because again, perception is anytime anybody tries to make the railroad follow rules that the railroad didn't come up with, there's pushback.
I think there'll be some pushback. We did have a couple of no votes in committee, and I would suspect that there'll be some on the floor. But I really think that there's enough support to move the legislation to the Senate, and then we'll see what the Senate's willing to do with it.
All right, I am talking to Jim Marshall, 14th District State Representative. It's Rappin' with the Reps. You can call or you can post your question in the comment section on the Facebook feed, and I'm told we got a phone call. If you want to listen, if you can hear it, if you can't hear it, I'll repeat it. Hi, what's your question? Can you hear me?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to thank Representative Marshall for his support for the Harkins bill. That's House Bill 299. It's a recognition for public employees of OSHA regulations to provide safety. And it's going to go to the Senate, and it passed with bipartisan support. And Mr. Marshall, I want to thank you. I was disappointed you're the only one on today, because I was hoping to ask Senator, the Senator
Kale.
support, because Jim was the only representative in the area that supported that bill. And I just wanted to tell him thank you for working across the aisle, as he said he mentioned, with Rob Massey on this other legislation. And I know Jim does reach across the aisle.
Excellent. Thank you for the call. Jim, what is the Harkins bill?
Thank you, and thank you for that call.
That's nice. I'm always nervous, like somebody's going to scream about, my neighbor's not mowing my grass, come fix it.
Well, private businesses are required to meet, depending on the number of employees, safety guidelines and their OSHA guidelines. So the Harkins bill would put public workers in that same place where they have more protections for workplace mishaps or conditions, working conditions.
Public employees didn't already have that?
No, just
Really?
private, yeah. And it seems to me, I mean, that kind of makes sense.
It's another one of those things, you tell me that, and I go, oh, I would have assumed that had already been in place for a long time.
You would think.
Yeah.
And to me, it was easy, although I did get a lot of emails in support of that. But I felt it was easy to support. We want every employee to feel safe at work and to be able to report conditions that might be unsafe. And, the no votes, I think, were probably concerned about the cost of implementing the legislation. We have to bring school buildings up to code, or government buildings up to code, or,
Again, isn't that something that should be getting done?
Well, I mean, you would hope that this building would be up to code.
I have a lot of hopes, yeah.
But I bet your new space will be.
I am so going to talk to you about this when this program is over. I am very much looking forward to getting to play with new toys.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For sure. But again, you assume, all right, if I work for the Water Authority, I would assume OSHA has a hand in making sure that I'm being protected, or at least laying out the rules to follow to be protected. And that wasn't the case.
Right.
Okay.
But again, Representative Rob Massey voted for that as well. So I think the caller said that I was the only one in the area, but Rob and I supported that legislation.
Now, see, when you said it, what about the cost of it? I would have thought, what's the cost of being safe? But that does include bringing a lot of old buildings that municipalities deal with that aren't up to code.
Sure. In the borough I live in, we had a garage for the road department that had the trusses cut out in the ceiling and to fit larger equipment. Not a good idea.
Wait, they cut the structure to hold up the ceiling to fit bigger trucks under it.
Right. That's been changed. But you can imagine that probably goes on, a lot of places. A lot of small municipalities probably struggle with that.
How many days of the week do you hear or see or read something and just shake your head?
8.
You don't 8? Yeah, okay. 8 days a week.
Sounds like a song.
We're going to take the Beatles reference and go to news with that. After the news, more with Jim Marshall. It's Rappin' with the Reps. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
When you talk about community involvement and safety, the name Fry stands at the forefront in Beaver County. Fry Transportation's mission is to continue to raise the bar as the gold standard in their industry by providing the safest, most reliable, and cost-efficient transportation service in Beaver County through their strong relationships with their communities, best-in-their-class drivers, equipment, and technology. There's nothing more important than the safety of their students, employees, and community members. Fry Transportation, where the quality of their organization is characterized by the makeup of the individual behind the wheel.
Smell the aroma of heavenly roasted coffee before you walk into Hallowed Grounds Coffee Roastery in New Brighton. Hallowed Grounds has the best selection of both coffee and tea in the valley, as well as delicious goodies and great gift ideas, including custom gift baskets. By the cup or by the pound, Hallowed Grounds Coffee is the best around. Call 724-581-JAVA or stop in today. Store hours and details available online at hallowedgrounds.com, where you can shop 24/7. Hallowed Grounds would like to say thanks a latte to all of our veterans for all of our freedoms. The warm weather is back, and that can only mean one thing: Pirates baseball for a 75th season on Beaver County Radio. Tune in and listen to the Pirates Radio Network broadcast team as they take you through every pitch, hit, and out of the 2023 baseball season. Make sure you set your radio dial to WBVP WMBA 99.3 FM or 95.7 FM for all the action. Pirates baseball is being presented locally by the St. Barnabas Health System, Freedom United Federal Credit Union, Falcone's Moon Township Ford, Keystone Wellness Program, Friendly Federal Credit Union, Dr. C. Timothy Lip, and Beaver County Radio, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA.
Mark your calendars for May 20th from 9 to 5 to spend the day at Air Heritage Museum at the Beaver County Airport for their Wings and Wheels, Aviation Appreciation Day, and Classic Car Show. In partnership with their general level sponsors, Beaver County Radio, Community College of Beaver County, Beaver County Commissioners, Visit Beaver County, Head Start, Early Head Start of Beaver County, a division of the Private Industry Council, and AFK Logistics Incorporated. You are invited to see historical airplanes and automobiles, tour their World War II and Vietnam era warbirds, enjoy delicious foods, music, a chance auction, and lots of goodies for kids. Thank you to our Colonel level sponsors, Push Beaver County, Bethany DeLuca with State Farm Insurance in Chippewa, Chippewa McDonald's, Rochester Machine Corporation, Falcone's Moon Township Automotive, Patriot Home Care, and Clearview Credit Union. Thank you to St. Barnabas Health System for their broadcasting coverage. Don't miss this spectacular Wings and Wheels event at the Beaver County Airport on Saturday, May 20th from 9 to 5, rain or shine.
Tune in to Live Mike with Mike Romai, presented by Heritage Valley Health System, weekdays from 6:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's an all-new show on Beaver County Radio, where Mike discusses the issues important to Beaver County.
Urinated at a car wash in front of children. Oh, yeah, and police officers.
I think it's the end of society as we know. I think it's one of the signs of the apocalypse.
There's also special guests, weather, sports with Matt Durzik, and news every half hour with Curtis Walsh. So tune in to Live Mike with Mike Romai, weekdays, right here on Beaver County Radio. Now entering our 75th year of serving Beaver County. You're listening to 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM, 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA, part of the St. Barnabas Radio Network. Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Curtis Walsh.
Good morning. We can expect partly sunny skies today, becoming gradually sunnier with a high near 81 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after this look at news. The Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission is hosting a public meeting today, Thursday, May the 11th at 2 p.m. in an effort to gather feedback from Beaver County residents on local transportation and infrastructure challenges. This will be a virtual meeting and members of staff, PennDOT representatives, and Beaver County officials will be involved. If Beaver County residents cannot attend the meeting, they can still provide their comments on local transportation and infrastructure challenges through a variety of ways during the public comment period, which runs from May the 11th through June 9th. Members of the public can submit their comments by email at comments@spcregion.org or by fax at 412-391-9160 or by mail at P.O. Box 101-429 in Pittsburgh. Several concerns brought forth at Wednesday's work session may lead to several moves by the Beaver County Commissioners. Matt Durzik has further details.
The county commissioners dealt with a slew of concerns at Wednesday's work session, including dealing with an air conditioning unit atop a rotting 12-foot deck and a raising concern about response times to emergencies in Beaver County. They were also presented with a concern from Treasurer Sandy Egley, whose office is experiencing delays in processing tax checks from one of the county's main banks.
I'm in conversations with the bank. They would like us to scan these and send it an EFT to them to speed up this process. I'm not real happy about that because it will cost the county money to write the program for our scanner to be able to link to the bank. Two is that recently they decided that they're going to start charging bank fees, and now we have to budget $1,000 a year.
The full story from Wednesday's work session can be found at beavercountyradio.com. From the county courthouse, I'm Matt Durzik for Beaver County Radio News.
Officials say 9 rail cars from a Norfolk Southern freight train derailed in Newcastle with no hazardous chemicals on board and no reported injuries. The rail company said in a statement that the derailment happened just outside of Newcastle. It says crews responded immediately and are actively working at the site. The Newcastle Fire Department said that at least some of the cars that derailed contained paraffin wax, which is used to make candles and soybeans. Sandy Giordano reports Hopewell Area School District sent out a message last Friday in regards to discussions being held due to the swatting call that happened on March 29th. There will be meetings on Monday, May the 15th in the Junior High Library, Wednesday, May 16th at the Central Office Boardroom, Wednesday, May 17th at Independence Elementary's Library, and the last discussion will be at Margaret Ross Elementary on Thursday, May 25th. A Senate panel has approved a rail safety measure in response to the train derailment in East Palestine. The Senate Commerce Committee voted to send the bill to the full Senate. The vote was mostly along party lines, with only 2 Republicans favoring it, which raises questions about whether the bill will ever get to President Joe Biden's desk. Some Republicans complained that the measure could restrict shipments of coal and oil. The vote came after the CEO of Norfolk Southern, Alan Shaw, promised to compensate East Palestine residents whose homes have declined in value since the derailment in February.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
We can expect partly sunny skies today, becoming gradually sunnier throughout the day with a high near 81 degrees. Mostly clear tonight, going down to a low of 52. A chance of showers tomorrow with partly sunny skies and a high near 79. Showers likely with a possible thunderstorm Saturday with a high of 78. And partly sunny skies Sunday with a high of 73. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
You don't have to have had an accident, suffered a sports injury, or undergone surgery to take advantage of the benefits of physical therapy from Dale Reckless at MRS Physical Therapy. At a recent live broadcast at MRS Physical Therapy in Bridgewater, Dale Reckless talked about treatment for the common foot pain condition, plantar fasciitis.
Plantar fasciitis is a pretty common thing, and I tell my patients, don't wait to come and get some treatment for it. The longer you wait, the more chronic it becomes. We'll still fix it, but it'll just take longer. If you come to see me when you're first getting the symptoms, then I can take care of it a lot quicker. What I do with plantar fasciitis is we give some stretches to do. I do a lot of hands-on exercise, and then I also do an evaluation of how they walk and how they stand. They need the hands-on work that I do to help cure the plantar fasciitis.
If you need physical therapy for any reason, choose the place that your friends and neighbors do. MRS Physical Therapy in Bridgewater, and Cranberry Physical Therapy in Cranberry. Visit mrsphysicaltherapy.com.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
It is Rappin' with the Reps. Today it's singular. Jim Marshall of the 14th District is with me. You can call with your questions, 724-843-1888, 724-774-1888, or you can post your questions in the comments section on the live Facebook feed, which is going on right now. And we got a question. My next question I'll get to, but Ken sent this question, and I want to get your thoughts about it. I'll just read it to you off the page. Florida doesn't have an inheritance or estate tax, so Florida's inheritance tax rate is 0. A beneficiary of a deceased person in Florida doesn't owe state taxes on inherited property. Why does PA still have a state inheritance tax of 4.5% on every penny of assets from parents when they die to the child? And PA wants former PA residents / retirees to return to PA to live out their final years and then get taxed literally to death. That's what he said. Now I'm just going to shovel it straight to you. I've heard this from Ken before, and from somebody that wasn't born and raised here, that strikes me as ghoulish. That you're going to come by, I'm sorry your family member died. Everything that you just got, we want 4.5%.
Ken's absolutely right. It's awful. I can't imagine. I mean, I would have to research how long PA's had an inheritance tax. But can you imagine
that's harsh,
voting
man.
that in?
Yeah.
Who votes for that? How did we get to that point? I've sponsored legislation to eliminate inheritance tax. I think it's one of the worst taxes that we have.
It just seems ghoulish.
It is, and it's ghoulish is right.
Yeah.
It's so hard on families that are already facing significant loss.
Sure.
And then you're right. They try to set something aside for their adult children, and minor children aren't as impacted as adult children.
Right.
But, most of the time, it is adult children that are facing this.
4.5%. Sorry, your mom died. Give us a check.
We need to get to the point where we can get support to eliminate this tax. The General Assembly has been working on lowering corporate net income tax and other tax streams.
So obviously, taxes can be changed.
It can be.
Yeah.
It just takes a majority.
Why is that not a majority? What's the reason given? Because you said you've sponsored legislation, it hadn't made it into law. What was the reason given when it got short-circuited?
Well, the challenge is that tax revenue generates the revenue you have to provide services, and there's a lot of tax revenue in the inheritance tax. So generally, you want to try to replace that stream somewhere else, and it's hard to do. It's hard to get the support for that. But there is legislation this session to eliminate it. I support that, and I hope we can get there this time.
What other legislation's on the docket that you think is a good thing and you're going to support, or is there legislation you've heard about that you think, okay, that's not good, I'm not going to?
It happens every day. I get emails. Generally, we learn about what might be coming up by the emails that we get.
What do they do? Somebody sends you and said, hey, I've got this bill. Will you back me up on it? Or do they say, what do you think?
Just usually, like, it's a topic, whether it's, there's, I think, 3 bills that impact gun legislation. So people will say why this is a bad idea and don't support it. Or they'll say it's about time and support it.
What is the legislation?
The 3 in particular that were related. They were amended. They ran on second last time we were in session, and so they'll be on final. One would be it's a red flag law. So if someone may not be mentally capable to have guns or own guns.
Concern is they could hurt themselves or other people in whatever the state they are in. Yeah.
Right. But there is a judicial system that can address that. It should be able to address it more rapidly than it does, I would agree. But the current version of the bill is, I think it's unconstitutional because we have the proof that we're innocent before proof of guilt.
Presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, and I just think that if, say you're in a bad relationship and your significant other says, I'm going to fix this guy, and you could say someone might be mentally incapable, and without due process, the other person's really just jammed up by false information. So, and we do have a lot of gun laws on the books now that in some cities they're not followed. I think Philadelphia, maybe.
Yeah.
But I just think that just creating more laws doesn't necessarily fix problems. I think you have to get the laws on the books to be followed, adhered to, and it's just like the derailments that happen all the time. There are accidents that happen that can't be prevented, and we want to hope for the best.
What legislation is there that you're looking at going, this is good, let's get on it right now? This should be bipartisan.
Well, I'm working,
besides the death tax.
I'm working with a Democrat House member, Anita Kulik from Coriopolis area. We both have legislation that addresses PFAs in Pennsylvania, protection from abuse, and there are times when the courts will say, okay, was there violence involved? If you have two individuals and the one individual wants protection from another, and did it get violent? Were you struck? Was it physical?
Right.
Or do you fear for your life? Well, what about this person is abusing me on social media, or this person is defaming my character on
talking crap from outside?
Right.
Yeah.
I just think that there's abuse, there's physical abuse, which what the courts are, I think, focused on. But I think the courts should open up their views more to look at what might be emotional or mental abuse as well. So Anita Kulik and I are working on two different bills, and there are a couple more introduced on that.
Now, are you talking about a bill that would be more protective of legislators like yourself, or are you talking about for everybody? If I feel like somebody's threatening me over the internet, for everybody?
I think it's for everybody's everybody's daughters, I feel. I mean, any dad that has a daughter, we want to protect them all their lives, and I think this is part of that.
How are we doing with the learning curve law as it relates to social media? Because we're in uncharted, we've never been here before, and laws need to be written. How hard is it going to be to write laws for something that technically you can't hold in your hand, unless it's a phone, obviously?
It's challenging, Eddie, I'll tell you. And actually in the Senate there's a bill that they're talking about distracted driving and not holding something in your hand.
All right, you just poked me with a stick. From where I live to where I work, there are 19 stoplights. At every stoplight, at least 40% of the people waiting are on their phones. Can we get that punishable by death?
That would be too hard to get to that point.
A third strike.
But we need more of that. And that's certainly, people are distracted by cell phones, people are distracted by applying makeup or reading a book or whatever. Sometimes people are distracted by the children in the back seat.
Yeah.
But people just really need to focus on driving because it's critical. It's life or death. But back to we were talking about technology.
Yes.
The feds are trying to really crack down on TikTok because it's
Chinese
technology, and I could see their concerns with security, but I'm getting emails from people that if you take away my TikTok, I'm never going to vote for you again.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, it's not me. I'm not in Congress. Call your congressman.
Well, it's nice to know that they're sort of paying attention. How do you deal with the fact, and it's fact, TikTok is Chinese owned and they could be harvesting data, no doubt. But every platform is capable of harvesting data, and every week we find out this platform's doing this without us knowing that, doing that without us knowing.
Every search you do on the internet creates a commercial for the product you were searching. I mean,
yep.
Wow.
Curtis and I were out back a couple days ago. We were talking about guitars. We mentioned a certain brand of guitar. We weren't on our phone. My phone was in my pocket, but we're talking about Martin Guitars, Nazareth, PA. Absolutely.
Guitars. Absolutely.
And I come back and open my phone, and the first thing I see is an ad for Martin Guitar. Do you think the common person, the normal person walking down the street, has any clue about that level of skeeviness?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think people really think about that. It's subliminal, and we need to. I will say every guitar probably sounds better on a Marshall amplifier, though.
That's not true.
That's my plug.
That's not true.
Okay.
If it's a shredder, Curtis, right? If it's a shredder guitar and you're ripping it, Marshall will do it. But if you're looking for warm, if you're plugging in your Martin, I ain't plugging it into a Marshall. Not to start a fist fight in the middle of the program. Agree to disagree?
Maybe. You're just warm and fuzzy today, bud.
I'm just looking for tube tones out of today's program.
Yeah.
That's it. While we're talking about technology, I did want to ask you about this. Are we getting wired up in Beaver County?
Oh, absolutely.
We talk about the evil of the internet, and then I talk about the absolute necessity of the internet.
We need it. We do really need it. Again, and I got to say, Rob Matze and I, again, passed this legislation through committee, through the House, signed into law, and we worked hand in hand with Lance Grable at Beaver County Planning, and the commissioners, Beaver County commissioners, were focused on getting in households that were underserved or unserved, getting them connected. And it was great working with the county on this, and they're doing an outstanding job. There are places that were unserved that now have fiber right to the house.
Really?
So, yeah, and it's you can't really work or do school or medicine or anything at home without the internet.
How much of our lives got shoveled over to the necessity of the internet because of COVID? A whole lot of people that didn't really care one way or the other, it suddenly became vital.
Right, and then once people started working from home, and finding that in many cases, you can do that successfully, then they want connected, and that's part of their next job search is how much of a hybrid workplace can we be in? And you can't work from home if you're not connected. So. And
when it comes to bringing companies into Beaver County, they absolutely look at that first too, don't they? Right. It used to be highways. It used to be, do you have an interstate in your backyard? Yeah. Which, thankfully in Beaver County we have highways and rail and rivers, but now we also need that other highway, the internet highway, the broadband, the capabilities to connect to the world. Where's the money coming from to wire everybody up? Because my cable bill is ridiculously high. It is, and I get that, but there are federal programs that are addressing this, and the county's focusing on unserved and underserved, and they actually created their own map to determine what areas were served or not, because the federal FCC program maps were just not realistic. So they hired a local firm. What do you say the federal maps weren't realistic? What were they, outdated? Well, they would say, well, if this person in Raccoon
township
Okay.
is served than that whole neighborhood is, and where in fact there are.
Oh, they were wrong.
They were wrong.
Okay, yeah.
So
Okay.
there are streets that maybe one side of the street was served and the other not. And the county, they had a firm go out door to door to find out what the signal strength was and what company that individuals were using. And they got great maps, and they're emulated by other counties that in Pennsylvania that want to do it the way Beaver County is doing it. So kudos to Beaver County commissioners and their staff.
Why were the FCC maps wrong? Were they just old, or are we talking about government?
I think it's that you need local decisions to make accurate decisions. You need boots on the ground, and you can't just throw something on the wall and see where it sticks. You have to go in and actually measure, what is the service in this area, and is the same throughout the neighborhood.
To get the correct information.
Yeah, the more detailed information you can get, and that's why Beaver County maps are better, because of boots on the ground.
It is Teleforum today, Rappin with the Reps. Today's rep is 14th District State Rep Jim Marshall. My guest, this is on the radio. This is also being live Facebook feeded. You can post your questions there. If you could fix one problem in Beaver County, they give you the golden ticket and the wand, and they say, Mr. Marshall, you're allowed to fix one thing that you see as wrong but fixable, besides trains falling over.
Well, that's hard to say, Eddie, because I'm not, even though I represent a large area, I don't have the entire county. I have a portion of the county.
All right, your district, what's the biggest issue you would fix?
District,
yeah.
It's still, unfortunately, it's transportation infrastructure. I mean, our highways are crumbling, and they need attention, especially Route 551. It's a mess, and I really think it's going to happen this summer. But say like the Route 18 corridor between here and Newcastle.
Okay.
Beaver Falls had 4 lanes right through it. They narrowed it down to 2 to help the public in Beaver Falls. It didn't seem to really impact traffic that much. So further up the road where it's 4 lane, I think that could be also 2 lane.
And actually shore everything up.
And fix what you can. And,
yeah.
And I think that 2 lanes on that portion of Route 18 could enhance that business district where there's Jersey barriers where you can't get through. I think it could be safer than it is now. Even if you had to reduce the speed, I still don't think it's going to be traffic jams. I think that PennDOT needs to take a fresh look. And then there's a new Secretary of PennDOT who I believe really has got it together, Mike Carroll, who was a House member. He's Secretary of PennDOT. I think he's the fresh look, and I think that this administration needs to take a look at what can be done to not only enhance safety, but maintain the roads we have.
The fresh look sounds like a good idea, but how accountable can PennDOT be held by the legislature? The impression for the common folk like me is PennDOT does what they want when they want and don't do what they want if they don't want to.
Sure, individually, I can't control PennDOT. I have a constituent that wants me to make PennDOT stop using salt on the roads.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What's the suggestion? Because if you're going to say stop doing something, you got to provide an option. What, pickle brine?
They don't want anything corrosive on the road because of what it does to the roads, of course, and to their vehicles. But I can't tell PennDOT singularly, myself, solo.
Don't use salt.
Don't use salt. They don't listen to me. Collectively, when we have a majority, 102 members of the House, and say, this is what your funding is going to be for this year, collectively we can have an impact. We probably can't change the technology that they use or the equipment or the policy, but we can't control the finances.
If you take away the finances used to buy the salt, would that solve the problem?
No, because they would say, well, the General Assembly won't let us fix this road or bridge, but they won't say we're just going to spend it on salt. So we can't we micromanage them. We just can control their finances, their revenue stream. But
I could not do your job. God bless you.
It's a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah. What should I have asked you today that I didn't ask you, Mr. Marshall?
Well, usually we talk about what's going on locally, because there are a lot of things in the summer. I mean, later on in the year we'll have the fairs, but now
the fairs, the car cruises, the farmers markets. Yeah,
sure. I mean, Darlington Days is coming up.
That's right.
It's big in Darlington, and
did I read that the street fair in East Palestine is being sponsored by Norfolk Southern?
It could be. I don't represent Ohio. So
I don't want to throw that out yet unannounced. I believe I saw that.
But summer's coming, so Happy Days Car Cruise is just around the corner.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll see you there. And there's always a lot going on in Beaver County.
It's always great to talk to you. A guy who doesn't want salt on the roads.
Right.
One of your constituents.
Yes, sir.
God bless you and the work you do.
And he's not. I'm not going to say he's wrong, but again, what's the alternative? They used to use cinder,
ash,
and
coal ash. Yeah,
sure, but you can't get that anymore. So.
Well, with global warming, we don't need to worry about it. It didn't snow last year, hardly
We're not
nothing.
going to get icing again.
Yeah. Jim Marshall has been my guest, the state rep for the 14th District on Rappin with the Reps. Thank you for coming in. It's always great, always informative. No salt for the roads or your diet. Thank you, sir.
That's right. Thanks.
It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
The best of Beaver County is easy to discover. It's right here on your radio. Tune in Beaver County Radio or watch the best of Beaver County live on Facebook or YouTube video this and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. The program is made possible by St. Barnabas. For over 3 years now, the show has been dedicated to shining light on the great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests who are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. Your friends and neighbors at St. Barnabas are pleased to support the best of Beaver County. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. Archived Best of Beaver County videos can be viewed on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com.